A cosmic object 100 times bigger than anything we've ever tracked just entered our solar system, and it looks like it's hunting a smaller, equally strange visitor that arrived just weeks before. On September 12, 2025, astronomers witnessed an impossibility. Two massive, anomalous bodies arriving from opposite ends of the galaxy, set to rendezvous near the Sun. The odds are non-existent, and the evidence points not to a comet, but to a fortress. Let's explore this together. SWAN's dramatic arrival. What does it look like when the impossible streaks across the sky? On September 12, 2025, we found out. The SWAN instrument, a solar wind anisotropy sensor aboard the SOHO spacecraft, flagged a new object blazing a path through the inner solar system. The first data sets, analyzed by teams led by SOHO project scientist Bernhard Fleck, were staggering. The object possessed a tail stretching nearly 2.5 degrees across the sky, about 5 times the width of a full moon. To put that in perspective, a tail of that magnitude suggests a hydrogen outgassing rate hundreds of times greater than a typical long-period comet. Its initial brightness was clocked at magnitude 7.4, luminous enough to be seen with backyard telescopes from a distance of over 150 million kilometers. This wasn't some faint smudge, this was a spectacle. News ignited across astronomy networks, and just 2 days later an amateur observer captured a jaw-dropping image showing a streak so immense it barely fit the camera's frame. It was too big, too bright, and its trajectory was already looking far too precise. The raw energy output required to generate such a visible display at that distance was the first red flag that this was something entirely new. Official recognition and growing mystery. How do you classify something that breaks all the rules? By September 13th, the Minor Planet Center, where figures like the late, great Gareth V. Williams once vetted such discoveries, made it official. The object was designated C-2025R2 or SWAN, acknowledging the instrument that found it. That official stamp kicked off a global frenzy. Its initial orbital eccentricity was calculated at over 0.999, confirming it as a long-period visitor on a path that would take millennia to repeat. The sheer size and luminosity created a wave of disbelief. Veteran astronomers had to reach back to the legendary comet Hale-Bopp of 1997, a comet with a nucleus estimated at 60 kilometers in diameter, to find a worthy comparison. SWAN, however, was already outshining Hale-Bopp at a similar distance from the Sun. It was slicing through the constellation Virgo, growing brighter as it approached its perihelion of roughly 1.0 AU, the same distance as Earth is from the Sun. The question shifted from what it was, to why it had arrived right now with such perfect timing. The numbers didn't just suggest a large object, they hinted at an impossibly active one. The cosmic coincidence. Some things are so unlikely they stop looking like a coincidence. See 2025. R2 SWAN is not the only strange visitor this October. Days before, another object, 3I Atlas, was already inbound from a completely different part of the sky. Imagine a celestial map. SWAN's path traces back from Aquarius, while Atlas entered from the direction of Sagittarius. Yet both are set to reach their closest pass by the Sun within the same 10-day window. For Atlas, that's October 17th at a distance of 1.36 AU. For SWAN, it's just 3 days later around October 20th, at a much closer 1.0 AU. Their perihelion points are separated by only about 50 million kilometers closer than Mars ever gets to Earth. The geometry is what's truly stunning. Both are on steeply inclined orbits, with SWAN's path tilted more than 60 degrees and Atlas nearly 90 degrees to the ecliptic plane. As orbital dynamicist Paul Wiegert would tell you, the statistical probability of this kind of synchronized arrival from such different trajectories is infinitesimally small. It's a corridor in space-time that seems to have been deliberately targeted. This is not random chance, it is a rendezvous. Atlas breaks the rules. So, what do you do when an object's very existence, just flat out violates physics? 3I/Atlas, discovered by the University of Hawaii's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System survey, which was headed by Larry Deneau, first got attention for its unusual composition. Early spectrographs showed a body dominated by nickel with almost no iron at all. This directly contradicts our knowledge of asteroids which, nearly always feature iron-nickel alloys in really predictable ratios. But the anomalies didn't stop there. Instead of water vapor, Atlas's coma was pumping out carbon dioxide. with its 4.3-micron spectral line dominating every single reading. But the real smoking gun was its movement. Observers logged 3 distinct, non-gravitational accelerations, on July 29, August 14, and August 30. These weren't smooth pushes, they were sharp bursts, delivering a delta V of several meters per second each time. The behavior was so precise it was actually dubbed thrust mix modulation, which honestly implies a controlled engine burn that was adjusting its composition output. The data held up across multiple observatories, painting a pretty clear picture. This thing was under its own power and on a mission. The physics, well, simply left no other room for interpretation. SWAN, the fortress. If Atlas is a nimble drone, then SWAN is basically a battleship. The scale of C/2025 R2 is honestly hard to comprehend, but it's the data that paints a really radical picture, one that has driven speculators like Harvard's Avi Loeb to consider similar theories for other objects. It all began with reflectance data. SWAN's core has an albedo, or reflectivity, way higher than a typical dark comet nucleus, actually matching the signature of polished metal. Some analysts argue it fits a nickel-cobalt blend, which is an alloy used for its immense strength. Then came reports of this silvery halo around the nucleus, an anomaly some folks interpret as a plasma envelope, or maybe even an electromagnetic shield. This is where it earned the nickname, the Fortress. Unlike Atlas, SWAN appears steady and, well, invulnerable, refusing to fragment as it gets closer to the sun. Even its tail shows evidence of micro-thrusts, tiny rhythmic pulses at a consistent frequency that just defy natural outgassing. Add in its 22,554-year orbit, and you have an object that appears to be ancient, armored, and, yeah, on a deliberate powered course. It isn't just passing through, it's arriving. Mission theories. When a 1 in a trillion coincidence happens, you really have to consider that it wasn't a coincidence at all. The timing, the geometry, and all this anomalous behavior have fueled a bunch of mission theories. One is a scheduled refueling run, which actually fits with concepts of advanced astroengineering proposed by physicists like Freeman Dyson. A more unsettling theory is an intervention, a rendezvous to neutralize a malfunctioning unit. The estimated power levels, Atlas at 10 gigawatts and SWAN at a staggering 10,000 gigawatts, suggest energy reserves needed for active maneuvering, not just passive drifting. There's also the audit chain scenario that 1I/Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I/Borisov in 2019, both on hyperbolic trajectories, were scouts. Atlas was a more advanced follow-up, and now SWAN is the main event. In every single case, the sun is the rendezvous point, the most powerful energy source in the entire system. The evidence honestly forces us to ask, if this is a mission, what is the objective? These aren't just rocks, they're actors on a cosmic stage. Ancient connections. An orbit of 22,554 years is, well, a link to a different chapter of human history. The last time SWAN would have passed was around 20,000 BCE, right at the peak of the last glacial maximum. Now, this is where the story connects to Göbekli Tepe, a site in Turkey built around 9500 BCE. Researcher Martin Sweatman has proposed a pretty controversial theory that its pillars are actually an astronomical observatory, recording a cataclysmic comet impact that triggered the Younger Dryas climate shift. He argues that Pillar 43 specifically tracks a long-period celestial object. But mainstream archaeologists, including the site's original lead excavator Klaus Schmidt, strongly disputed this, maintaining the carvings are symbolic. Still, the timing is, hard to ignore. If SWAN is on a recurring path, its last visit coincided with a transformative period for humanity. Whether that is a coincidence or a clue remains a fiercely debated question. It adds a layer of mythic resonance to an unbelievable event, suggesting we may have seen this visitor before. The blackout window. Just when things are about to get interesting, the curtains are being drawn. From October 8th to 18th, every major ground-based observatory from the Very Large Telescope in Chile to the Keck Observatory in Hawaii is effectively blind. This solar conjunction is predictable. What isn't normal is the alleged response. According to inside sources, memos from U.S. Space Command and the ESA have directed teams to suspend all imaging. The official rationale is to protect sensitive optics from the sun's glare. But that doesn't explain why radar facilities like Arecibo's successor, which are immune to solar glare, would also be ordered to stand down. This specific detail makes the official story fall apart. Proposals for alternative observation methods have reportedly been denied, and data requests have been delayed. Several telescope allocation reviewers describe explicit orders to avoid public statements. The result is a forced information vacuum at the most critical moment. Underground resistance. When the official channels go dark, the people build their own. The blackout order may have silenced major observatories, but it ignited a firestorm in the amateur and independent astronomy communities. Veteran tracker Bill Gray put out a call to arms across public forums: keep your scopes on the sky, log everything, and share the raw data on open-source servers. A distributed web of astronomers with powerful 14 and 20-inch telescopes answered. Collectives like the Ibero Tracker Group in Europe began pooling their photometric and astrometric data feeds. Leaks suggest plans to use radio telescopes to pierce the solar glare. This grassroots effort has become the only real-time source for what might happen during the blackout. It's a powerful narrative of decentralized science, a global network ensuring no data disappears. When SWAN and Atlas re-emerge, the first images confirming their post-perihelion behavior might come from a garage, not a government lab. This has become a testament to citizen science. Power estimates and implications. Let's talk about the energy required to make these objects move. Atlas's accelerations required a power source of around 10 gigawatts, the output of 10 large nuclear power plants, but that is dwarfed by SWAN. Based on its luminosity, its suspected micro-thrusts, and the energy needed for a plasma shield, the Fortress could be wielding something close to 10,000 gigawatts. That is more raw output than the entire power grid of planet Earth combined. On the Kardashev scale, a civilization capable of controlling energy on this level is approaching Type 1 status. These are not trivial anomalies. These figures are the hardest evidence to dismiss as natural phenomena. They move the conversation from astronomy into astro-engineering and contact theory. The sheer physics involves screams that we are dealing with a technology far beyond our own, powered by a source we can't yet comprehend. This is the bottom line that makes the engineered object hypothesis so compellingly logical. The facts are as clear as they are unnerving. Two anomalous objects defying all statistical odds have entered our solar system on a synchronized path. One appears to be a powered drone, the other an armored fortress. They are scheduled for a close encounter during a 10-day window, where they will be conveniently hidden from our best telescopes by the sun, accompanied by an official, top-down order for radio silence. This has forced the search for answers into the hands of a global network of citizen scientists. Are we witnessing a cosmic accident, a pre-planned mission, or something else entirely? Whatever the truth is, we are about to find out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you for watching Sci and Why.